Brand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed by individuals on this platform, the callers plus invited guests, are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with this brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Don't touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
Help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send your donation through PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.
Don't touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
Yo, what's good? What's the word? Welcome to Debate Talk for You, and you're now tapped into the Man Up segment. I'm your host, B.A. Ben Abraham. Man, I'm feeling so good. The 10th season of Debate Talk for You is now popped off. Hey, yo, Sal, man, what's good with you, bruh?
Hey, what's going on, man? We back, man. The Man Up segment with my host, brother B.A. For those who don't know, B.A. is back. So what's going on, man? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. You know, when Sal brought it to my attention that the 10th season was coming in, I was like, you know what? I really wanted to take the Man Up segment to a whole nother level, and my approach overall was going to be very different. I want to stay away from the dogmatic arguments and the theological doctrines. If you know me personally, everybody knows what BA stands for, where I'm deeply rooted in the Word. So what I'm going to do this season, we're going to go a whole other perspective, and we're going to talk to human beings. No more dogmatic zombies, and that's not a strike. That's just how it is. That's how I get down, y'all. But today we're going to talk about Marcus Garvey. And we're going to look at Garvey from a different perspective that's not very common for various people who believe that we know that he was a Christian. We have no issue with that. But overall, we're going to look at his writings, and we're going to look at his ideas, and we're going to see how he got started, and we're going to look at it from a different perspective from an actual Garveyite. The brother, and I'm going to let the brother come in and introduce himself. My man, where you at?
Peace and love, brother. It's Greg Phillips, hailing from Chicago. I'm a member of the Sir Isaiah Mortar Division 401 in Chicago. Also, shout out to the MSTA 555. Put the forerunner back with the prophet. We race first over there.
Most def. And a lot of people, Greg Phillips, me and this brother, we got a chance to know each other over the summer. We did a whole bunch of power building, and much love to my man, Brother Kyle, if he's out there listening. I got a chance to build him as well. But one thing about Greg, man, the brother most definitely brought some things to my attention that really caught my ear. And I was like, you know what, we got to get this brother on Debate Talk for You, and so we can hear his views. I mean, we may have different opinions and different views and different ideologies, but it's always good to hear people teach, because one thing I'm convinced, we got a lot of brothers who can teach. We got a lot of brothers who can edify others, but we have an overabundance of people who think they can do it. And what right here, this brother who I have on this evening, this brother most definitely can bring out some points, and most definitely he can edify, because I have learned from the brother, and I'm grateful and I'm humbled that he's on here. So without further ado, Brother Greg, before we get started, why don't you let people know who you are? Well, we know you're from Chicago, but let us know your history and your background and the things that you may have done locally where you're at. Because one thing this season on the Man Up segment, I'm going to reach out to actual people who save lives and who look out for other human beings. So, and it's about us locally where we live at, making an effect in other people's lives. So the floor is yours, brother.
All right. Well, one thing that me and a bunch of other Garveyites have been saying this whole year is race over religion. That does not mean to not believe in one's religion, not stand on it, not have complete faith. That's all well. That's all good. But Garvey had this idea that there were things that us, black folks, whatever we want to call them, over here and in the motherland, have things in common. In a nutshell, common goals and common enemies. And those common goals and common enemies that affect us economically, politically, and socially, and probably most of all, educationally and militarily. We have those things in common, and we'll be better off pooling our resources together to achieve the goals and to defend against the enemies, regardless of our theological opinions or schools of thought, spiritual persuasions. Because none of those differences are going to stop those people when they say stop resisting. None of those things are going to stop a judge from letting somebody off, and that's only if the DA actually try to charge them. So there are some things that the first quote that I'm going to bring from Garvey is him saying that unification is the only solution. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. Even though this comes from a man that's a Christian, he was known to say that I'm not your normal type of Christian. He was able to compartmentalize his personal beliefs and not let them be an overwhelming influence on the racial unity that he could help bring with black people of all different types of faiths.
Most deaf. Most deaf. So with that being said, powerful words. For you personally, before you get into the basics and the different reasons that or the different steps that Garvey broke down, expounding who he was and what he's all about in his organization at that time, what led you to Garvey?
Well, what led me to Garvey was some years ago. Well, Garveyism, I should say, right? The UNIACL. For those who don't know, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the African Communities League. I had always been somebody that had a burn and a desire to do some things, to practically apply race-first philosophies, but I never really got around to doing it until I looked on YouTube, looked on Facebook, and saw New Era Chicago back in 2016, actually going into the communities that I know and know of so well, and seeing them put in work. That's all I needed to see to make sure that I'll be there for pretty much everything that I knew about. While doing this, I ended up meeting a brother, Marua, for real. And he was there all the time. And it was interesting when we would coordinate the hood to hoods. That's when we go to a particular hood and we clean up and give information and make chants and affirmations of race first and racial solidarity and give a whole different image and vibe to the hood. And he told us, like, this is Garveyism right here. And I knew, like, the little simple things, the shallow surface level things that most people know, but that led to me asking exactly, like, what is it to be a Garveyite? And a few of the things that he said immediately was self-reliance, to do for oneself, and for that work for self to also expand to our communities, our family, us as black people, and to practically apply and not just mentally masturbate. I'm like, okay, that's naturally up my alley anyway. And the more that I learned, the more I realized that it was not just about the boat, or what a lot of people say, back to Africa. This brother was talking buying black back when the Harlem Renaissance was going on, circulating the income, black ownership of where we stay and the ways that we generate income. This brother was ahead of his time, and the more that I read things from him and learned things from, little did I know, the president of Division 401, Brother Marua Farrell, and I started to realize just how much of Garvey was in me. And that led to another epiphany, that the race-first endeavors and agenda that he laid out over 100 years ago resonates in everyone who has those same agendas, even if they never heard of Brother Marcus Garvey before, even if they never knew what the red, black, and green flag stood for. There are many people who see that flag and feel a vibrational resonance that makes them proud of themselves, even if they really don't know where it came from and how it was crafted and what type of ideas were imbued in it. So, yeah, the first time that I really got a good dose of Garvey, it was from that president, actually being out in Chicago, and not just to try to get new members. Wasn't no promotion drive. He really came out to do the work with us, because it was Garveyism, regardless if it was under his watch, under someone else's watch, regardless of even if Brother Garvey's name wasn't even mentioned. He's someone who was proud to see his work being done. And that struck me as well. Like, wow, okay, they don't just care about getting members. They don't care about the collection plate. All they care about is black people doing strong things for each other. So that was my first dose of Garveyism.
So it was more so about the activism. It was about taking actions into his own hands, this brother you were talking about, movement, making things happen the best way he could. And the best way he could was to take it to grassroots, start from the bottom and work your way up, uplift the people. And that is powerful. I most definitely can respect that. So, and another thing, man, we see a lot of stuff going on the internet, and I'm more so willing to tap in with the brothers who are actually doing the work. I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but there's a brother out here in Marysville where I live at. I'm in Marysville, California. The brother, he's from Chicago as well, and me and the brother, we were just talking, and currently me and the brother were working on a project together, doing some music, and your name came up, Brother Greg. And as soon as your name came up, he was like, Greg Phillips out there in Chicago. The dude is really, he a beast, he a monster. The dude is active for real.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that's something. And from then on out, that confirmed everything you told me personally when it's just me and you and Brother Kyle talking. So that's another reason why I had to bring you on here, because the goal now has been set. It's about being effective in our local communities. I can care less about the avatar banging. I can care less about the groups online. That don't do nothing to me. That don't phase nothing to me. I don't care how much Bible scriptures you can quote. I don't care nothing about that no more. I've been there and I've done that. Does that mean I'm moving on my faith? I'm not moving on my faith in the sense of I'm not going to believe no more. I'm rooted in the Word of God. But my point is that I'd rather build with other brothers and sisters who are actually being effective with where they live and changing lives. That's what I'm all about. I can care less about information. I can care less about the other stuff. It's not doing us any good. We've been doing it ever since Facebook and social media has been relevant, and still the same results: gang banging and ad hominems and insults and foul language. And I'm guilty of it too, because I've done it. But now it's time to show maturity. It's time to show that we have evolved. Let's take this information that we teach and we speak on and we read daily and actually put it to use. And with that, brother, like I said, the floor is yours. You can speak, open up your sources, whatever it is. It's all you.
All right, brother. I like the way you bounce past the rock like that. No look, like white chocolate or something in this part.
Oh, good.
So, the first thing that I want to go to, it's interesting, right? Due to how Brother Garvey was, the more that I read from him, the more I see the nutshell crafted in different types of nutshells. I guess a pistachio nutshell, a peanut nutshell. I'm trying to sit up there and see, like, which things can bring Garveyism home in a nutshell. And the more that I read, the more that I realize that he put the nuts in all types of different shells. So just in case you picked one or the other, you still get what you had coming to you. So I want to start at African fundamentalism, a very, very important lecture of his, where he truly did break down what it would be to be an African fundamentalist. And I feel like this paragraph just says it better than I ever could have myself. He said, as the Jew is held together by his religion, the white races by the assumption and unwritten law of superiority, and the Mongolian by the precious tie of blood, so likewise the Negro must be united in one grand racial hierarchy. Our union must know no clime, boundary, or nationality. Like the great Church of Rome, Negroes the world over must practice one faith, that of confidence in themselves, with one God, one aim, one destiny. Let no religious scruples, no political machination divide us, but let us hold together under all climes in every country, making among ourselves a racial empire upon which, quote unquote, the sun shall never set. That right there in a nutshell expresses what the red, black, and green means. But Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad, for us to eventually unify everywhere that we are, and not only increase our power, our sovereignty, and our congruent momentum on the rise everywhere that we are, but to also take at least some of those resources, some of those talents, some of those treasures, and put them into the motherland in ways that will help swing and sway, even in his day and now, the colonial powers. Same powers. Different name, different way that they influence and dominate. You might not see their flags flying everywhere, but their money is being exchanged. Their companies and their industries are pulling the natural resources out. Those who will get in and do things in office, even in African land, for them instead of their own people is proof of the type of influence that's around, even if you don't see their armies around. And as I said before, with Garvey saying that unification is the only solution, we can't keep allowing our differences of opinion to stand in the way of a greater unity. Because the more that I look in history, even in the motherland, everywhere that there was a colonial power that struck a decisive victory against some African indigenous people, they had some type of tribe that was close to them, that knew of them, that had bad blood with them, helping the invader, helping what they call the Black Panther, the colonizer. Learn the terrain, know who the people are, know where the shortcuts were, expose to them the pressure points. And then once they got in good and dominated those, and they flipped the script on the same people that had been helping them. That's because they were race first. At a time when they didn't have hardly any natural resources, hardly any education, the population had been disrupted and damn near decimated by the bubonic plague, but they stayed together. And even when they had friends that didn't look like them, allies that didn't look like them, they didn't let that get in the way, which segues me right into another quote from Brother Garvey, which is, what man has also done, man can also do. There's nothing that has been done to us or that we have done in the past that we cannot replicate. And in some ways, even of a greater order, because we're smarter and faster and stronger. We just let things get in our way. But the target, the focal point, has to be race first. It has to be us figuring out what we can do together. Hey, wherever, when we go into our own homes and when we assemble with other people who think the same thing, that's great. Do that. When we come out of those homes, when we come out of those places of worship, we are united and we are assembled in ways that really are even out of our control. Even if we don't see each other as the same people, our adversaries do. And as long as they keep treating us like we're the same people to push us down, we need to treat each other like the same people in order to start building the foundation of raising ourselves up. Peace.
Man, brother. A loss for words. I most definitely, me personally, I stand with you on a lot of those points. And the reason why is because when it comes to our people living in this country, we are the most scrutinized and everything that comes with it. Every time we do something or every time we try to come with some type of movement, it gets downplayed, it gets talked about, and then we allow those critics on the outside looking in deteriorate us from our original motive. More opportunity just for our own. It's looked down upon in the mainstream media when we want to do this or we want to do for ourselves. It's always looked down upon, and we allow the pressure from the critics to deteriorate or sway us from even looking out for ourselves. And then, like, what's that movement? The Black Lives Matter movement. It's not about trying to make it seem like that we're better than people. What the Black Lives Matter movement is all about, hey, our lives matter too. Unarmed men and women and children are being gunned down. Think about that for a minute. You live in a country where your children get gunned down. They get treated with no respect. So if no one treats you with no respect on the outside, where's the respect going to come from? It should automatically come from those who are being afflicted. We should automatically have a lot more unity. And we see it from time to time. I know around California, it's not as prosperous for our people to get together. We see it in certain stints. But I see more organization amongst our brothers and sisters on the East Coast and in the Midwest, and I even see it down south. Just from what I have witnessed. I could be wrong, but I'm talking about my personal experience. So, but brother, is there anything else you would like to expound on as far as that topic, or you want to move on? Or Sal, do we have any callers? Anyone press 1?
Not at this time. We got people listening to the program. The number is 319-527-6239. We do have a social media question. Whenever you get a chance, I can read it whenever you guys are ready.
All right. You want to? We can take that question. You mind taking that question right now, Greg?
No, not at all.
Go ahead, Sal. Tap in.
All right. So here's the question. It says, if someone liked what you're saying and did the research, how does one go about joining the Pan-African movements?
Very good question. Other Pan-African movements, I can't really speak on. I can start with New Era. I know you can find New Era. You can find the UNIA in Chicago and other places as well by putting in like New Era Nation and look up the groups, see what the videos, see where they come and see the events. Same thing with the UNIA, ACL, the MSTA. You can definitely check us out on Facebook. The same Google searches and Facebook surfing that we do for entertainment, we can find our people, the ones that still have that torch burning. So, yeah, look up the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. See whether they are close to you to actually get in tune with them physically, but also catch them on the internet, catch them on Facebook, catch them going live, catch them in the communities doing things, adhering to the aims and objectives of the UNIA's Constitution.
All right, we got a follow-up question. Some people feel like Dr. Umar Johnson brought a resurgence when it comes to the Pan-African movement. What do you feel about Umar Johnson bringing more awareness of the Pan-African movement, and do you look at him as an asset to the community?
Well, I look at everyone that puts some work in for a positive cause that also has some type of beneficial reverberation as being an asset. I equated a lot to football. Ironically, it's football season. You know, when was the last time have we heard running backs talking crap about wide receivers because they don't have to get hit as much? So now they don't want to block for them. They think they're pretty boys anyway. What if the defense is feuding with the offense because the offense gets all the glory, the referees roll with them, and they have to do all the dirty work? Wouldn't go anywhere. We all have different niches, different aims, different knacks for different talents and different mentalities and perspectives that gives us an ingenious advantage and different angles, different fronts of this multi-front war. Whichever ways we can literally get in where we fit in, put our pebbles in the pool that could possibly be a butterfly effect of revolutionary activity, then right on. Let's get it. I don't really have a negative points of view on things that we may differ because our common goals and common enemies are the same. So I like that he's trying to get a school. I like the things that he has to say in reference to psychological entrapments, from epigenetic sequences, the trauma that we've inherited, the psychological conditioning that we've inherited that puts us at a disadvantage almost from birth, if not. I rock with them on that. And the things that I may not, that are specific and are mere pieces of sand on the beach in comparison to our common goals and common enemies, I'll just let that slide and figure out which ways we can link together. So I hope I answered that.
All right, so far there's nothing else on the social media end. Again, the number is 319-527-6239. Feel free to call in. If you're already on the phone line, simply press number 1 and we'll add you in the conversation. VA, you can continue.
You know, there's one thing that you mentioned. You said revolution. Revolution simply means change. And also revolution means love. One of my favorite revolutionaries by the name of Che Guevara, he said a revolutionary is guided by all love. And what we see here with Marcus Garvey is that for him to have a love, he had love. For him to do the things that he did during the Harlem Renaissance, you have to have love. You have to be a changed individual overall to do the things that he set forth. For him to gather amongst different, and we know the various different peoples that he organized with. I mean, you had people who were Muslims, you had various Christians, you may have had people who were not of any in particular theological or that partook in the Abrahamic faiths. You have various people at that time, at that period, when what Garvey was doing. Garvey was doing some powerful things at that time. Various people joined him and wanted to work with him. And a lot of people say, well, you know what I'm saying, well, they all came under the banner of Christ. Well, I would disagree. I don't disagree with Christ. I stand on Christ. But my point overall is that if you have these Muslims and various different ideologies who don't recognize Christ, why would they come together under the banner of Christ? They didn't. It was more so about them looking at each other. Look, we black folks, or whatever we want to call ourselves, and we're suffering, and it's about time for us to look out for ourselves and be united and have a future for our children. That's the research I have done on Garvey. Those are the things that I have read. And we're not attacking Christianity, so I don't want no one to come on here and press one and say, oh, BA, you dogging out Christian. No, I'm not doing that. Not at all. So please, miss me with that madness. But overall, I just want to make sure that we understand that revolution is all about having love and willing to change. And you have to have love within you to put forth the efforts that Marcus Garvey did. And, Brother Greg, is there anything else? You can keep going, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you had me ready to sit back and listen, man. That's that. Well, like I was saying before, right, it's a beautiful thing to become exposed to Garveyism and realize how much of the things that we felt that didn't have words for, the things that we thought about making and building, and finding out that one of our ancestors from 100 years ago felt the same way and built an infrastructure just for that. I would like to go to what Marcus Garvey called the Holy Writ of the UNIACL, which is the Declaration of the Rights of the Negro People. It starts off by saying, be it resolved that the Negro people of the world, through their chosen representatives in convention assembled in Liberty Hall in the city of New York, the United States of America, from August the 1st to August 31st in the year of our Lord, 1920, protest against the wrongs and injustices they are suffering at the hands of their white brethren, and state that they deem their fair and just rights, as well as the treatment they propose to demand of all men in the future. We complain that nowhere in the world, with few exceptions, are black men accorded equal treatment with white men, although in the same situation and circumstances, but on the contrary are discriminated against and denied the common rights due to human beings for no other reason than their race and color. We are not willingly accepted as guests in the public hotels and inns of the world for no other reason than our race and color. In certain parts of the United States of America, our race is denied the right of public trial according to other races when accused of crimes, but are lynched and burned by mobs. And such brutal and inhuman treatment is even practiced upon our women. Pause on that one. The European nations have parceled out among themselves and taken possession of nearly all of the continent of Africa. And the natives are compelled to surrender their lands to aliens and are treated in most instances like slaves. Gotta pause for a second. It's a bittersweet thing, right? For my brother Garvey to be ahead of his time, but then it also every light casts a shadow, and the shadow to that light is that 100 years later we're still in the same situation, and due to technology, at least, it's even worse. But anyway, so I don't digress. In the southern portion of the United States of America, although citizens under the federal Constitution and in some states almost equal to the white population and are qualified landowners and taxpayers, we are nevertheless denied all voice in the making and administration of the laws and are taxed without representation by the state governments and at the same time compelled to do military service in defense of the country. On the public conveyances and common carriers, in the southern portion of the United States, we are Jim Crowed and compelled to accept separate and inferior accommodations and made to pay the same fair charge for first-class accommodations. And our families are often humiliated and insulted by drunken white men who habitually pass through the Jim Crow cars going to the smoking car. The physicians of our race are denied the right to attend their patients while in the public hospitals of the cities and states where they reside in certain parts of the United States. Our children are forced to attend inferior separate schools for shorter terms than white children, and the public school funds are unequally divided between the white and colored schools. We are discriminated against and denied an equal chance to earn wages for the support of our families, and in many instances are refused admission into labor unions, and nearly everywhere are paid smaller wages than white men. In civil service and departmental offices, we are everywhere discriminated against and made to feel that to be a black man in Europe, America, and the West Indies is equivalent to being an outcast and a leper among the races of men, no matter what the character and attainments of the black man may be. In the British and other West Indian islands and colonies, Negroes are secretly and cunningly discriminated against and denied those full rights in government to which white citizens are appointed, nominated, and elected. That our people in those parts are forced to work for lower wages than the average standard of white men and are kept in conditions repugnant to good civilized tastes and customs. That the many acts of injustice against members of our race before the courts of law in the respective islands and colonies are of such nature as to create disgust and disrespect for the white man's sense of justice. Against all such inhuman, unchristian, and uncivilized treatments, we here and now emphatically protest and invoke the condemnation of all mankind in order to encourage our race all over the world and to stimulate it to a higher and grander density. We demand and insist on the following declaration rights. 1, be it known to all men that whereas all men are created equal and entitled to the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and because of this, we, the duly elected representatives of the Negro peoples of the world, invoking the aid of the just and almighty God, do declare all men, women, and children of our blood throughout the world free citizens, and do claim them as free citizens of Africa, the motherland of all Negroes. 2, that we believe in the supreme authority and giving the man as a common possession, that there should be an equitable distribution and apportionment of all such things, and in consideration of the fact that as a race we are now deprived of those things that are morally and legally ours, we believe it right that all such things should be acquired and held by whatever means possible. 3, that we believe the Negro, like any other race, should be governed by the ethics of civilization and therefore should not be deprived of any of those rights and privileges common to other human beings. 4, we declare that Negroes, whatsoever they form a community among themselves, should be given the right to elect their own representatives to represent them in legislatures, courts of law, and such institutions as may exercise control over that particular community. One thing I want to say about that one, number 4 in the Declaration of the Rights of the Negro People of the World, we see that even though those brothers and sisters were grassrooted, they weren't cooning, they were separatists, they weren't trying to be like the talented tenth and all that, they still had aims and objectives and ambitions to infiltrate and seize the power in these nations that we're in these governments that we're in. Even if we can't do it completely now, still work towards it while we build up our own stuff. So it's a dual agenda, dual efforts. Where we do it our own while also digging and infiltrating into the pots and positions of power that we don't have access to. And number 5, we assert that the Negro is entitled to even-handed justice before all courts of law and equity in whatever country he may be found. And when this is denied him on account of his race or color, such denial is an insult to the race as a whole and should be resented by the entire body of Negroes. Here again, we see this idea of us being united together. And when any one of us is being done wrong, that it's an insult to our entire race, and all of us should resent it, whether we like the person or not, whether we know the person or not, whether we pray like the person or not, we look like the person. And that's all that should matter. Because if he looked like me, they'll do me the same way they did him. Number 6, we declare unfair and prejudicial to the rights of Negroes in communities where they exist in considerable numbers to be tried by a judge and jury composed entirely of an alien race. But in all such cases, members of our race are entitled to representation on the jury. 7, we believe that any law or practice that tends to deprive any African of his land or the privileges of free citizenship within his country is unjust and immoral, and no native should respect any such law or practice. Just had to give that a little breath right there. That's
there you go.
As we say in the UNIA, in the spirit of the Haitian Revolution. Number 8, we declare taxation without representation unjust and tyrannous, or tyrannous, maybe we should have said. And there should be no obligation on the part of the Negro to obey the levy of a tax by any lawmaking body from which he is excluded and denied representation on account of his race and color. And number 9, we believe that any law, especially directed against the Negro to his detriment and singling him out because of his race or color, is unfair and immoral and should not be respected. Period.
Now, you know, that's crazy, that taxation without representation. You know, the colonialists, before the United, it was when the United States was just called the 13. Before then, when they were just known as the 13 colonies, that most definitely was an issue they had. The colonialists was like taxation without representation. That is tyranny. That is ungodly, and they didn't catch hell for it. But as you can see, Garvey putting these ideas out there that this is not just, it shouldn't be more so about race. This is, it is about race. It's based on what Garvey he's bringing into play here. But my point overall is, you see that this is an inhumane thing to take from people, especially when there's a big monster or a conglomerate or some type of system or some type of machine that's taking from those who don't have much. So you see this right here, this literature, this information that Brother Greg is sharing, this is what makes a guy like Marcus Garvey dangerous to a system of systematic rule and oppression. And what country was he organizing in? Yeah, we know he's from Jamaica, but where was he organizing? He was organizing here in the United States.
Yes, sir.
Who used these similar principles to become their own nation. Now all of a sudden, a descendant of Negro slave is just using the same tactics to do the same thing to make him and his people relevant. But as you can see, Garvey became a threat. He became a big time threat. What's that term that J. Edgar Hoover said? The rise of the Black Messiah.
Yes,
the
sir.
takedown. What did Hoover say? Hoover said the only black Messiah, and I'm paraphrasing, the only black Messiah that we're concerned with is the one that we create. That's what he said. And see, Garvey was somebody they couldn't create. Malcolm X was somebody they couldn't create. Martin Luther King, even though a lot of people disagree with him, but still, you couldn't create him. He was a threat. When Martin Luther King started speaking out against the military-industrial complex at the time of the Vietnam War and started really addressing classism and capitalism as we know it today, that's when he became a problem.
Yes, sir. He definitely did. And especially when he called integration a house. And he said that he feared that he's led his people into a burning house.
A burning house. He started
to see, yes, he wanted to balance that integration with a segregated core. An integrated outer layer with a segregated core. When Dr. Martin Luther King did that, that's when the rifles started being aimed at him ASAP.
Ain't that something? Well, guess what, Brother Greg? We got a caller.
All right.
But before we go, finish up your point, and we'll deal with that caller. Go ahead, brother. Finish up.
Okay. You brought up Malcolm right after Marcus Garvey. And something that a lot of people don't know about the Little family is that his mom and dad actually met at this convention where they put this declaration together at.
Yeah, they were Garveyites. Malcolm's father was a Garveyite. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and mother. They left that convention, and then I forgot where they come from. But what they did, they started up that UNIA division. His dad was the president of that division. His mother was the first lady and secretary. That's the reason why the Klan was at him, because he was a Garveyite, leading a local division. And without his son even knowing that and going through a life of crime and all of that, he still ended up being one of our shining stars. He was truly the love child of Garveyites. So for you to say Garvey and then say Malcolm, that struck me, and I just had to let that be known to the people.
Oh yeah, bro. When it comes to this, I'm with it. I rock with it. You know what I'm saying? I love the revolutionary spirit. I love the stance that a lot of our people have made living here, even though there are not that many success stories. But believe me, I'm a single father raising my children. And I'm going to tell you this right now. When it comes to the schools they're in, the teachers don't like going to these kind of topics with them. Having me as a father, you're going to know something. You're going to learn something, most definitely. But for real, Brother Sal, we'll take that caller. And before we go to the caller, we have no issue with those who oppose. What we're asking is if you're going to come with an opposing view, do it respectfully, and we can still, at the end of the day, have a civilized discourse or disagreement or whichever you want to call it. But go ahead, Sal.
All right, we're going to the phone lines, family. We're going to the phone lines. Again, the number is 319-527-6239. But if you're already on the phone, all you got to do is press number 1. If you have a question for our special guest, Gregory Phillips, the number is 319-527-6239. Then press number 1, and we'll add you in the conversation. Let's go to the next caller. 443, you're all live.
Hey, gentlemen, this is Brother Mercy. I just wanted to say, man, this is a good conversation. But also, I also want to discuss what do you think about common law or family law, like the Muslims do. They get into, like, individual practice as far as, marriage, raising your children, the really family structure and infrastructure that I believe that is, I think the Muslims had, I'm not a Muslim, but I think they had that piece of it, I think is missing a lot of times. And that's one of the key pieces because, I think we have to build our family and we have to build it with each other in family because our family's been ripped apart. So I just feel like, like in ancient culture, our parents chose our spouses. And I think that happened for a reason. And because we don't choose our spouses and our parents don't choose our spouses anymore, that power's been ripped from them. I feel that's I think the document you have is very powerful, but to put it in very like layman practice, like everyday practice. Like, say, for example, you got this great document, but say one of our great athletes that went to the NFL marries a white woman. I mean, that takes away from what you just done. You follow what I'm saying? Because that's what's going on. A lot of our people. Our people are not being true to the essence, the core of what you're talking about. And I think when you do interracial and you do that type of stuff, a lot of people move into these white neighborhoods. A lot of people have, just forgotten about the community as a whole. So look at our greats, what they've done. They don't live among us. They don't interact with us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, all that work that Garvey and King did, they're beneficiaries of it. But do they come back and say thank you? No, they don't. I'm just telling you, man. These are just the facts, man. I mean, we've gotten some form of civil rights, but at the same time, the one of us who quote unquote made it don't want to reach back, man. A lot of times they don't reach back, man. So I don't know what y'all brothers think about that, man.
Brother Mercy, thank you, brother, for calling in. Brother Mercy is one of our faithful listeners. We appreciate you, brother. Man, I would say when it comes to to the black family, I believe is most definitely ripped apart. I believe that it's barely functioning in this day and age. We see more of the single-parent homes within our community than anybody else. We see less wives and more baby moms. So, brother, man, and those principles that Brother Greg just read are very vital, very essential. And you brought up another thing. During the ancient times, a lot of the parents did pick the spouses for their children. And that was very key. That symbolizes a strong uplift. That symbolizes strength right there within the family unit, that the family makes the decision for the youth to go on, and the cycle continues and it continues and continues. But unfortunately, in this side of the planet, in this day and age, that's not the case. We see the total dead opposite. And that's why we continue to get what we're getting now. But, Brother Greg, if you would like to expound, go ahead, brother.
Oh, yeah. All right. First off, I agree in reference to the domestic and the integral cohesiveness of Muslim communities. All right. I also like the way that within the social and political and economic structure, they stick together. That's something. It would be an understatement to say that that's not something that we need to apply. So I definitely agree with that. Another thing is the easiest way to figure out what we have to preserve and defend is to see what our enemies are aiming at the most. And every single projectile that's been thrusted at us over these hundreds of years have all had a direct impact and influence on the black family unit. So since that's the main thing that they aim at and want to break up and disrupt, that's the main thing that we need to defend and shield and cultivate. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Exactly.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I agree with that, brother. I will partially play devil's advocate, right? Now, in order for us to build family units that are race first, that are for us, then we need to entwine and promulgate the next generation with those of us that also share this racial lineage. If we don't do that, then we're not creating a strong black family unit. Now, with that being said, I will say that there are brothers and sisters who maybe before they came to the light or even in the transition into a Garveyite light, they did end up creating relationships and children with those of the non-black people. I feel as though there's still things they can do socially that's not of a domestic influence economically and politically by just putting their faith to actions, their words to actions, and doing things that'll help out. Well, at the same time, I don't think that people who aren't actively perpetuating and promoting a strong black family unit should be at the helm and at the leadership of our race first movements and endeavors. But even those brothers and sisters can get, it's enough work for everybody. Definitely wanted to say that. Something else in reference to the brother, he was talking about us educating our children in more ways than one, right? Nurturing them. This is something else that the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey said. This is the last paragraph of African fundamentalism. As a matter of fact, I think I should go to the second to last. He says, let no voice but your own speak to you from the depths. Let no influence but your own rouse you in time of peace and time of war. Hear all, but attend only to that which concerns you. I repeat, hear all. Got to keep our ears open to all information, but attend only to that which concerns you. Your allegiance shall be to your God, then to your family, race, and country. Remember always that the Jew in his political and economic urge is always first the Jew. The white man is first a white man under all circumstances. And you can do no less than being first and always a Negro. And then all else will take care of itself. Let no one inoculate you with evil doctrines to suit their own conveniences. There is no humanity before that which starts with yourself. Charity begins at home. First, to thyself be true, and thou cannot be false to any man. Damn. Okay, God and nature first made us what we are. And then out of our own created genius, we make ourselves what we want to be. Follow always that great law. Let the sky and God be our limit, and eternity be our measurement. Let no height to which there is no height to which we cannot climb. By using the active intelligence of our own minds. Mind creates. And as much as we desire in nature, we can have through the creation of our own minds. Being at present the scientifically weaker race, you should treat others only as they treat you. But in your homes and everywhere possible, you must teach the higher development of science to your children. And be sure to develop a race of scientists par excellence. For in science and religion lies our only hope to withstand the evil desires of modern materialism. I got to repeat that. For in science and religion lies our only hope to withstand the evil desires of modern materialism. Never forget your God. Remember, we live, work, and pray for establishing a great binding racial hierarchy, the founding of a racial empire whose only natural, spiritual, and political limits shall be God and Africa, at home and abroad. June 6, 1925. That brother talking about with us building our communities and even those family units being interwoven into the village, because we all know it takes a village. I just had to drop those last two paragraphs in the lecture, African Fundamentalism, that hits it on the head. Charity begins at home.
Man. So, Brother Mercy, you still there?
Yeah, Mercy, your line is still open. He probably stepped away.
Okay. Well, if the brother comes back and he can press the one and he can chime in, or he can respond or chime in with us or expound a little bit more. Sal, we have any more callers?
All right. Once again, the number is 319-527-6239. I want to throw a little quick question in there. We all know that Marcus Garvey was well known for unifying black people and putting us together, but he's also known for the economics, having a working economic plan that was, working at that time. Where is the economic plan today? I feel like is there a blueprint laid out, or is it, somewhere lost, or, where is that blueprint for economic growth today as far as the Marcus Garvey movements?
Man. I wouldn't even know how to answer that. to be honest.
Oh, dang, I didn't even know I was still muted, man. I'm tripping. Okay.
No, it's all good. It's all good, brother. Take your time. Do your thing.
Generalities, right? There are broad generalities that were applied then that can still be applied now, even though we still need to modernize it due to how much the world has changed in literally 100 years. I know, like, for instance, Division 401, we have a 9-part plan that's based on Garveyism, and built upon it for a more modern time, a modern day. But we could definitely, the fundamentals remain the same. One thing, like we learned in the course of African philosophy, is to put our time and efforts into ownership and entrepreneurship. Another thing that he told us to do is save our money and budget. We have to budget and save our money and put in one way that I say it is that every dollar is a bullet. We could either play Russian roulette with it. We could kill some parasites, some poverty parasites that's trying to suck the wealthy lifeblood out of us. Or we could shoot it in the air for celebration, entertainment, and waste it like New Year's Eve. But every dollar is a bullet. Brother Garvey believes the same thing, that if we actively, see, it all boils back down to self-reliance and doing for self. Like the FUBU thing, for us, by us, is a good way of putting it. The Garvey economic plan, in a nutshell, generally speaking, and where it is, too, in the UNIA, in the constitutions and bylaws, you can extract things from the Declaration of the Rights of the Negro People as well that we'll get into. Of course, from African philosophy, a multitude of excerpts from the philosophies and opinions, and even some things in Race First, the official biography of the UNI ACF, where it's talked about how they move. And then you also have the African Communities League, which was incorporated in Harlem, New York back in the 1920s, which is all about, I'm actually privy to the Articles of Incorporation from way back when, 90-something years ago. And within it, they were empowered and emboldened to use the collective resources, that the finances that they get, to buy more in the communities, buy more assets, and also to do partnerships, primarily with other people and other organizations, other corporations that are also black-owned, but to also put money into other things that might be there with other people, as long as we're not compromising our agenda and we're bringing more resources to come back home with, since charity starts at home. So you also have that dual agenda going on economically with Garveyism, where we're building on cultivating our own entrepreneurship and ownership, acquirement of assets and less liabilities. And then not only on the ownership side, but what I would call concentrated consumerism, where we focus and concentrate on switching over to black-owned sources of the same things that we would be buying anyway, in order to circulate our income amongst each other. The circulation of our income is pivotal in Garveyism. Definitely want to put that out there, too.
And you know, another thing, like you said, I would also like to add, you may have mentioned it, financial literacy. And more so, let's do it for the kids. Let's teach the kids financial literacy. I know close personal friends of mine, Sister Ashanti and her husband, Brother Torch. They do that out in Sacramento, where I grew up at. They go around and they teach that to young men and women in the South Sacramento area, which consists of young blacks and young Latinos. You know what I'm saying? They teach that financial literacy. I think that is a good principle to teach our youth, because as soon as they get a chance, once they graduate from high school and when they go into the job market, they don't know the knowledge of money, the value of a dollar. They just go and spend and become consumers, which is nothing wrong to be a consumer, but to think about things, save money, put it to the side, get a bank account, and so forth. There are many young women and children, many young men and young ladies at my job. They don't even have a bank account. They don't even know to put away a couple of dollars a week.
I know grown men and women right now who get paid on a weekly basis, working 40 to 50 hours a week, getting paid every week and not saving a dime, not investing their money into their retirement. None of that. So, and that is dangerous. That is very dangerous. If you don't have that, what good are you? You're going to become a working slave for the rest of your life until you turn 60, 70, and so forth. That's if Social Security is going to be, that's whatever's left by the time if that even happens. So that's just something that I believe that needs to be taught. Financial literacy to our children. Teach them how to save, how to have discipline, not to always eat up their money like a lot of us did. I keep it real. I just got into retirement and all that, me personally, about 5 years ago. And I'm glad I got tapped into it then. So, you know what I mean? So it really would go a long way when you teach our children, when you organize them and to understand the concept of money and how you can use money to make it work for yourself. That goes a long way. It's deeper than just sitting on YouTube debating all day. It's deeper than that. And let me see. I believe we have another caller. Sal, most definitely we can let that caller tap in real quick. Not a problem.
All right, let's go to 314. You're live, 314.
I was wondering if you guys was playing Mozart. Have you heard your music on it, Blog Talk? I would be asking for a refund. These folks can't get this stuff together for some reason or another. But I just dropped by. But hey, that's a really good suggestion that you gave. That the sooner that you can get people more acclimated in finances and how it all works, especially the power of compounding, the better off they'll be in the long run.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And
Can I add two resources? Something a lot of people, one of them we all don't think about too often. I found out earlier this year, and it really blew my mind. Some of the best financial literacy, right? A resource of financial literacy that we can extract and break down into digestible fragments for our children and our grown behinds as well, is Chapter 1 in any college level accounting book. It goes right into assets and liabilities, having a budget sheet, a balance sheet. Chapter 1. We could fool around and get a good college level book on accounting from a couple years ago off of Amazon for not too much, way less than a good pair of gym basketball shoes, and extract the sub-chapters out of the chapters and turn them into workable exercises and educational resources. There's a game out there called Cash Flow as well. That's kind of complex. If we get our kids
I played that
involved
game
in
before.
Cash Flow, where they can practice having a budget sheet and paying bills, and having an income, and fool around and make some candy, maybe some, not make some candy, but give some, hopefully some healthy sweets, but some type of incentive to be a good thing. That they the one that balanced their money good and got $10,000 in the bank account with all their bills paid 6 to 12 months down the line and playing this game, getting good credit. That's a good way, like edutainment. To have our kids looking at learning these things and being proficient at them is something to be glorified, something to be applauded and rewarded. And that will incentivize them even more to keep it in their subconscious and excel at it. And then when they get grown and then get to realize, oh, man, this reminds me of the games we used to play every Saturday, they'll be at an advantage.
They can apply it because they'll have those skills from a kid, and as young adults, they'll most definitely execute and be a whole lot.
Even just playing Monopoly.
In the way that he should go. Hey. And I'm not even, I'm not a Bible practitioner myself, but the truth is true. And then what it say somewhere in there, train up a child in the way that he should go.
He's old. Depart from it. Exactly.
That's mental conditioning.
There's 2 videos on YouTube that's very interesting. One of them is called Balling on Baltic, Ballin on Baltic, Baltic, and the other one is Mexicans Fix Up Old House. Both of those videos are very inspiring, and they get to the point real quick. I dare you to listen to them. Next time I call into your show, you probably say, "Man, where did you find him at?" But check them out. Ballin' on Baltic. And the next one is Mexicans Fix Up Old House.
Yes, sir.
And,
what's your name, Elder? What's your name?
My name is Pianki. Pianki.
Pianki?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Man, we most definitely appreciate you and your wisdom, and I will really look into those videos. And are you on social media, brother, or?
Well, I'm on Facebook more so than I really need to be because it takes away from your time. And my name on Facebook is Pianki Bankole, Bankole.
Okay, when you get a chance, brother, my name is B.A. Ben Abraham. Reach out to me, friend me, and whatever knowledge, whatever videos and other books and sources, please share them with me because I'm a single father raising my kids up. And believe me, on my own, and I can do what I need.
Congratulations,
just information to help with.
Yeah,
thank you, brother.
Congratulations, man. Keep up the hard work. All right, B.A. Ben Israel. I'll check you out.
Ben Abraham.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good night. You have a good night, Elder.
All right.
All right, family. Once again, the number is 319-527-6239. Again, this is your time. You have any questions or comments, you can call in and let your voice be heard live on the air, 319-527-6239. Simply press number 1, and we'll add you in the conversation. For those just joining in, we're talking about building on Garvey, Marcus Garvey, that is. Nobody else is pressing number 1 at this time. You can continue.
All right.
Well,
Brother Greg, whatever else you want to share, you can keep going, brother, and we'll just keep flowing.
Yeah, I was inspired to bring something to the table in reference to what we call race over religion in 2019, what these brothers were doing in the 1920s. It's 2019, and we're going back to 1920 with it, right? So actually 1918 with this first part. So I want to mention a few brothers that were a part of Garvey's global government and a part of what's called the High Executive Council, which is like the federal equivalent to Garvey's government. So these brothers was at the highest of the high, his inner circle. The first one is Eleazar Cadet. Was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. The son of, now these some French names, so I might mess them up, y'all. Mesinor Pierre Cadet, a prosperous produce dealer and dyewood merchant in St. Louis du Nord. In April 1911, Cadet was enrolled in an elite school in Port-au-Prince. After graduating in July 1916, he traveled to America in 1917 to pursue a course of studies in mechanics. He was employed at the time in Nitro, West Virginia. It was through a chance reading of the Negro World, which was the newspaper, Marcus Garvey's newspaper. It's been resurrected, too. Check that out, y'all, the Negro World. It's back. I won't say better than ever, with all due respect to our legendary forefathers, but we back, though, with the Negro World. One of the frequent weekend visits to Brooklyn and the center of the Haitian immigrant community. That Cadet learned about the UNIA after the newspaper published a letter from him contending that blacks in the United States had been deliberately deceived about the alleged benefits deriving from America's occupation of Haiti. Cadet became a regular visitor with a group of other interested Haitians at UNIA meetings in Harlem. Since neither of the other two delegates of the UNIA peace mission were able to secure passports to travel to France, Cadet became a one-man delegation. Cadet supported himself in Paris by working as an auto mechanic with M. Jacqueline, with whom he subsequently entered into a business relationship to establish a fruit cannery in Haiti on land that Cadet proposed to secure. The Haitian concern was intended to be a subsidiary of Joaquin Cadet and Company and was given the name Société des Plantations de Valparaiso, Port-au-Prince. But the plan ended in failure. Cadet returned to Haiti in December 1919 after stopping briefly in New York in order to meet with Garvey. Cadet later became a Vodun high priest of the cult of Damballa and established himself as Haiti's most renowned exponents of psychic and mystical phenomena. So we have one of the most powerful Voduns of his time deep in the UNIA. The next brother is Dosei Muhammad Ali, was an influential Pan-Africanist, friend and mentor of Marcus Garvey. He traveled widely throughout the African diaspora. He founded the African Times and Orient Review in 1911, which spread the call for African nationalism, and later founded the Comet in Lagos, Nigeria. He created the Universal Islamic Society in Detroit, Michigan, which in turn influenced the creation of the Nation of Islam by Wallace D. Farrar Muhammad in 1930. Ali joined Garvey's United Negro Improvement Association, where he served as the Foreign Secretary and head of African Affairs. Ali left the UNIA following Garvey's 1927 deportation from the United States. Marcus Garvey founded the New York chapter of the UNIA, and within a few years it became the largest mass movement in African American history. Arnold Ford became a musical director of the UNIA choir. Samuel Valentine was the president, and Nancy Paris is lead singer. These three became the core of an active group of black Jews within the UNIA who studied Hebrew, religion, and history, and held services in the Liberty Hall, the headquarters of the UNIA. As a paid officer, Rabbi Ford, as he was being called, was responsible for orchestrating much of the pageantry of Garvey's highly attractive ceremonies. Ford and Benjamin E. Burrell composed a song called Ethiopia, which speaks of the glorious past before slavery and stresses pride and African heritage, two themes that were becoming immensely popular. Ford was thus prominently situated among those Muslim and Christian clergy, including George Alexander McGuire, chaplain general of the UNIA, who were each trying to influence the religious direction. In 1898, Leonard Howell, the first roster, was born in a parish in Clarendon on June 16th. At an early age, he migrated to the United States, where he joined Marcus Garvey Universal Negro Improvement Association. Soon, Howell became one of Garvey's top brass members, but Garvey and the UNIA were constantly under the radar of U.S. authorities, which eventually arrested and charged Garvey for various crimes. He was deported in 1928, and Howell was to follow him in 1932. But Howell's activism switched from Garveyism to one that focused on the importance of Selassie I. He saw Selassie as the great black Messiah, and he established the King of Kings mission out of respect for Selassie and appointed himself Selassie's representative in Jamaica. He also wrote the first book on Rastafarianism. So we have the first Rasta, we have one of the first black Hebrews, one of the first black Muslims, and one of the most powerful Voduns of his time, all in the inner circle in the High Executive Council of the UNIA in the late 1910s and 1920s. Living proof of race over religion in Garveyism.
Man, that's some powerful words, brother. Some powerful.
And he was
words.
a Catholic, by the way. Marcus Garvey was a Catholic. Now, let's remember
and that's
that.
crazy. That's crazy because I didn't even know that. I knew that he was a Christian, but as a Catholic, that's
That's a new one on me. That's a new one on me.
Yeah, I think most in the Caribbean areas they are Catholics, like the Caribbean, Central America. Yeah, but they subscribe to the Catholic religion. Yep.
Yeah. We got any more callers, Sal?
Nobody else pressing number one, man. They're just listening to the show. I appreciate y'all. Y'all want to tune in and press one, but nobody's pressing number one right now. You continue.
All right, Brother Greg, we can continue or we can wrap it up. It's all about you, my brother. And the reason why I wanted to do this because a few months ago you had a discourse, and I felt that at the time when that discourse went down, you and the individual were talking about Garvey. It was somewhat of a debate, and I really felt that your information, the things that you brought out, it was and nothing personal against the brother Black Jesus Minister who you were going against, and because he was only doing what he felt that he could do was win a debate, which is nothing wrong with that. But I felt that your points were not listened to. Like, people didn't appreciate what you had to bring out. So I felt that what platform could you come on and just be able to come on and speak and bring out your points without any interruptions, without any sensationalism, without any ad hominems, all that, and just come and speak your points, bring them out, and allow the audience and various other people who listen to decide for themselves instead of waiting to see if you won the debate. Rather, you know what I'm saying? It was more so about being informed and being edified. That's what I stand on, bro. So when I'm out there on Facebook with you and a few brothers, I'm actually listening to those who are worth bringing on here, so they can come out and make their stance and make their stance and bring it out and share it with the community. Because everything ain't meant to be debated. Everything's not meant for entertainment. Is sometimes things are just need to be brought out just to be heard, just to be listened to, just to take notes on. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Most definitely. And like I said, that's not a shot at Black Jesus Minister or anybody else. I know that was a debate platform and it's all about getting the win. That's fine. But I felt that the things you brought out this evening, even the things you brought out back then, were very vital, and I felt they need to be heard. And I felt debate, and this is how I feel, debate talk for you is number one. I don't see nobody else. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But if there's anything you would like to say, you can continue, brother, or you can come to some conclusions, and we can close out. It's whatever you want to do.
Yeah, let me throw a quick question in there since nobody else is calling. Let me throw a little quick question in there. Yeah. Once again, the number is 319-527-6239. Now, as far as the Pan-African movement, how do you feel about it? Do you feel like it's actually reached a certain plateau? Is it like at its heights right now? Or do you feel like there's other things that could be done so it can expand more? How do you feel about the movement overall in 2019?
Well, I feel as though, first, Marcus Garvey said that the biggest weapon formulated against black people is disorganization. So I would hate to move the goalposts to infinity, but I believe that if we were more organized and somewhat centralized in our efforts and endeavors, regardless of the organizational structure that we fall under, that we could be more impactful across the board. I also feel as though one of the biggest plagues, right, that's the biggest weapon against us, but one of the biggest plagues among us as a collective is inactivity. I feel as though every group of us that are trying to do something, we're all plagued with there being not enough members to do all this work. So it all goes back to captivating and galvanizing our brothers and sisters to inspire them to be motivated enough to get up off their asses as well, because this is for all of us.
No doubt. We do got a caller standing by. This is another follow-up. As far as the Muslim, Islam, some would say that, those are the critical. Some would say that the Islamic movement are probably doing more than a Pan-African movement. What's your opinion on that as far as, the two parties, as far as what they do? Go ahead.
Well, I could see a lot of the militant aspects of the movement. First off, I think about the Nation of Islam and the impactful work that they've done in our community for decades. I can't think of another movement right now that is as strong and has done as much as they've done. If I wanted to compare and contrast, one thing that I do feel as though it could be even greater if there wasn't theological partitions involved. If a person did not have to absorb a particular theological preference in order to be an integral and active member of that movement. But yeah, with the compare and contrast, I would probably say that there were Islamic organizations that may be more impactful. And one thing that I like about with Garvey, he said, no nationality was one of those things too, that he didn't want to divide us. And I look at the red, black, and green as being what they call a global government with Hebrews, Muslims, Rastas, Moorish Americans, and others being nation states in this empire. If an empire is a body, then the nation states are the organs. So I definitely see the RBG as being an umbrella that the Pan-Africanists, Muslims, and other collectives of black folks can get under and work together in an environment and infrastructure where they're just black, regardless of what they believe.
All right, we do got a caller standing by. Once again, people, this is your time. This is your time. Simply press number 1. We'll add you to the conversation, let your voice be heard. Let's go to the phone lines. I think it's Brother Mercy. Okay.
Yeah, I had a question. I was wondering, what do you think about doing dual citizenship with different nations on the continent? As far as, most of us have, all of us have, identification, government, documents for the United States. But what do you think about having dual citizenship with other nations on the African continent? That way, travel would be more essential because I'm a citizen of another nation. And since I'm a citizen of that other nation, I likely would build up that nation since I'm a citizen of that nation. And then travel and commerce would be a lot more expedient because the reason why our people are here because we're citizens of this place. This is what we're told.
Right.
So what about getting citizenship in other African nations? Because I think that's a key part. Because once we start doing that, then we'll become citizens of other nations. Then we can break apart away from this nation and build up that nation that we're citizens of in the other nation. And then we could, build commerce between the two nations. Because there is a big business side. I mean, there's a lot of African nations that need products from the United States. So there's a big business opportunity there.
Yes, there definitely is. What a lot of people don't know either, right? The narrative that they portray with the Black Star Line, they make it seem like Brother Garvey was just getting a bunch of boats to go back to Africa. But what they didn't say was that the plan was for commerce, mercantile advantages, triangulated between us and America, those brothers and sisters on the coast, and those in the Caribbean. That's why later on Jimmy Carter made executive orders against the unification of Pan-African, African-Americans, pro-black Caribbeans, and anti-colonial Africans in any type of economic ways because Carter's administration deduced that such an alliance would lead to the destruction of the Western world's economy, for one.
Of course it would.
And I definitely wanted to segue real quick, right? Since I was at number 10 of the declarations, right now I'm gonna skip past 11 and 12 and get back to them, but 13 and 14, I think says a lot about the topic that you're referring to right now. So 12 is we believe that the Negro should adopt every means to protect himself against barbarous practices inflicted upon him because of color. Now, with that, of course, we look at protection and self-defense from a physical, military standpoint. But another thing is for us to get dual citizenship, like, for instance, Ghana, right? And one thing we don't know is that a lot of the anti-colonial leaders in Ghana and the Congo, pretty much everywhere in the 60s and 70s, these were children of Garveyites. Like, the same divisions that were in Africa, in many cases, were headquarters for this revolutionary activity. So in many ways, Garvey had a bigger physical impact, a bigger secular impact on black communities outside of America, across the waters, than he did over here and in the Caribbean. 13, they say, we believe in the freedom of Africa for the Negro people of the world by the principle of Europe for the Europeans and Asia for the Asiatics. We also demand Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. 14 is we believe in the inherent right of the Negro to possess himself of Africa, and that his possession of same shall not be regarded as an infringement on any claim or purchase made by any race or nation. So right there, we also have what you propose is being it fit right into Garveyism, even way back then.
Mm-hmm. I really believe that citizenship and another dual citizenship is key to because then that will make a stamp and make a, because let's just say I had an international driver license, or let's just say I had a Ghana government ID, then I definitely would be traveling to Ghana pretty frequently. I think that's the piece that's missing: the legal documents, the legal legitimacy.
Yes, yes, it is.
What you discussing?
Most definitely, like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. In order to play on an international scale, we have to make international moves. Now, I will say that the ability to wield that power internationally and how effective we can be where we are and abroad depends on how strong, powerful, and educated we are where we're at. That will be the measuring stick and barometer of how much of the influence we can have on in the motherland. Oh yeah, and one more for you, bro. 15 out of the Declaration of the Rights of the Negro People say we strongly condemn the cupidity of those nations of the world who, by open aggression or secret schemes, have seized the territories and inexhaustible natural wealth of Africa. And we place on record our most solemn determination to reclaim the treasures and possession of the vast continent of our forefathers. Right up your alley once again.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm definitely going to look into that. Then getting citizenship in other countries, because I think that's the move to and if we can return home, man, we would be kings and queens, man.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at Killmonger. That's why I look at the Killmonger paradigm. There's us that's from there, our people being from there, but us not being there, coming up in here. They actually had in the comics I was looking at, they had Killmonger growing up in Harlem. Not during the time of the Renaissance, but that's kind of interesting that they were still in Harlem, right? And him wanting to go back over there, reclaim his regal heritage and prestige, and use that power to help liberate black folks all over, take the fight to our oppressors, and create a pro-black empire. So, yeah, that makes me think about the Killmonger effect.
And then I really believe, to some degree, we have to return to our roots, because in order to grow a tree, it has to have roots. So I think that's key.
Yep.
Very key. That's very key. And just to hear you brothers speak, man, you know, I'm a student of just awe. So I don't have an issue with just falling back and listening to other brothers speak. I think it's a beautiful thing when you get a lot of like minds together and speaking on these type of topics and these type of terms. It's beautiful to hear brothers and sisters come together and speak on these type of things, because we need these type of things. We need to hear this more, not only just for us young adults, but for our kids. There's not that many positive influences out there for our children. Our children believe what's on television and the fanaticism on social media. They believe that's the way to go. It's very vital that this information, that these talks, these discussions, that we get them out to our youth. They need to hear these things. They need to see these things. And last but never the least, they need to see us act upon these things. And I just hope and pray that as time progresses, that we get a chance to display these things so others and our children can see it, because it most definitely will play a big part in the future of blacks in America and so forth. And I just want to say that real quick.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can I get back to some of these declarations?
Yeah, go ahead, brother. The floor is yours. Go right ahead.
Okay. It's number 16. We believe all men should live in peace with one another. So for those that try to make it like the Black Ku Klux Klan, get the fuck out of here.
Oh, whoa. We can't.
You gotta keep it clean, man. No cursing.
Yeah, my bad. No cursing.
But people kill me, bro, when they try to turn a movement that's set for us, by us, to improve ourselves, and vilify it as it being against other people. Right? One of the sisters, and Sister Oya, with New Era Chicago, she always used to say that she has no room for and no time to hate other people, because she's too busy loving on her own. And that's deep. But anyway, say we believe all men should live in peace with one another. But when races and nations provoke the ire of other races and nations by attempting to infringe upon their rights, war becomes inevitable. And the attempt in any way to free oneself or protect one's rights or heritage becomes justifiable. That's their danger. 17. Whereas by lynching, by burning, hanging, and any other disgrace to civilization, we therefore declare any country guilty of such atrocities outside the pale of civilization. 18. We protest against the atrocious crime of whipping, flogging, and overworking of the native tribes of Africa and Negroes everywhere. These are methods that should be abolished, and all means should be taken to prevent the continuance of such brutal practices. 19. We protest against the atrocious practice of shaving the heads of Africans, especially of African women and individuals of Negro blood, when placed in prison as a punishment for crime by an alien race. We still fighting for our locks. 20. We protest against segregated districts, separate public conveyances, industrial discrimination, lynchings, and limitations of political privileges of any Negro citizen in any part of the world on account of race, color, or creed, and will exert our full influence and power against such. So once again, this wasn't a movement that was just about operating outside of the law and outside of the government as well. We're supposed to be separate and be autonomous and sovereign in every way we can be, but we're also supposed to exert our full influence and power against people using industrial and political and social power against us. Where we at? While we helping to liberate our motherland and create stronger ties that bind between us, we still supposed to work wherever we at for what is work. Beat these people in their own game and start snatching these natural resources at where we stand and where we're living, even though we're taking a lot of those resources and putting them together for a future grand racial empire that will be headquartered in the motherland. 22, we protest against the system of education in any country where Negroes are denied the same privileges and advantages as other races. Them brothers and sisters knew how important education is. 23, we declare it inhuman and unfair to boycott Negroes from industries and labors in any part of the world. 24, we believe in the doctrine of freedom of press. We therefore emphatically protest against the suppression of Negro newspapers and periodicals in various parts of the world and call upon the Negroes everywhere to employ all available means to prevent such suppression. This here, in and of itself, this beautiful platform you brothers been building, is a residual of that doctrine of the freedom of press. Even though it's more audio and visual than it is being manually typed like it was back then, we're still pushing with that fight right now by expressing ourselves and conveying messages to the masses in ways that newspapers couldn't even do back then. 25, we further demand free speech universally for all men, not even just us, but for all men. 26, we hereby protest against the publication of scandalous and inflammatory articles by an alien press tending to create racial strife and the exhibition of picture films showing the Negro as a cannibal. Man, it's so bittersweet because I look like we still have to go through that now in modern-day blaxploitation. 27, we believe in the self-determination of all peoples. 28, which takes me right back to the race over religion mentality, right? Within Garvey's global government of the UNACL, the 28th declaration is that we declare for the freedom of religious worship. That's among all members. All members in the UNIA had the freedom of religious worship. So that in and of itself shoots right in the head the notion that the UNIA had a foundation in any one religious belief, especially a religious belief that believed that their path is the only way to go. It would make no sense for an organization based on that to give freedom of religious worship to their members unless religious worship wasn't a part of what the UNIA was built on and what it was there to promulgate. 29. With the help of Almighty God, we declare ourselves the sworn protectors of the honor and virtue of our women and children and pledge our lives for their protection and defense everywhere and under all circumstances from wrongs and outrages. Once again, the more I read this, the more I realize why it's tapped into the revolutionary hearts and minds of so many of our people and how decades later you have revolutions, anti-colonial revolutions all over the motherland from the children of Garveyites because of declarations like this. 30. We demand the right of unlimited and unprejudiced education for ourselves and our posterity forever. That's a strong emphasis on education. An unlimited version due to knowledge being power. 31. We declare that the teaching in any school by alien teachers to our boys and girls that the alien race is superior to the Negro is an insult to the Negro people of the world. That's another charge to become more active in the orchestration and cultivation of the minds of our children. 32. Where Negroes form a part of the citizenry of any country and pass the civil service examination of such country, we declare them entitled to the same consideration as other citizens as to appointments in such civil service. This is another one that's a direct highlight of us attacking and extracting the power and resources in the political arenas of where we are as well. Get our own people in there, while we also have people operating outside of that. Both sides of the fence, not just one. 33. We vigorously protest against the increasingly unfair and unjust treatment accorded Negro travelers on land and sea by agents and employees of railroad and steamship companies and insist that for equal fare we receive equal privileges with travelers of other races. 34, we declare it unjust for any country, state, or nation to enact laws tending to hinder and obstruct the free immigration of Negroes on account of their race and color. 35, that the right of the Negro to travel unmolested throughout the world be not abridged by any person or persons, and all Negroes are called upon to give aid to a fellow Negro when thus molested. That's back to that traveler aspect again, which commerce, business, and mercantile exchanges are built on. Also education, also defense, and being able to have supply lines, and not only buy and sell, but to trade and barter when it comes to education and military defense. 36, we declare that all Negroes are entitled to the same right to travel over the world as other men. So getting them passports on deck is important. 37, we hereby demand that the governments of the world recognize our leader and his representatives chosen by the race to look after the welfare of our people under such governments. 38, we demand complete control of our social institutions without interference by any alien race or races. 39, the colors of the red, black, and green be the colors of the Negro race. 40, resolved that the anthem Ethiopia, who we heard about Rabbi Ford helping to create, Thou Land of Our Fathers, etc., be the anthem of the Negro race. 41, we believe that any limited liberty which deprives one of the complete rights and prerogatives of full citizenship is but a modified form of slavery. Amen. 42, we declare an injustice to our people and a serious impediment to the health of the race to deny to competent licensed Negro physicians the right to practice in the public hospitals of the communities in which they reside for no other reason than their race and color. So even though these brothers and sisters are separatists, right, and weren't all just trying to integrate and give their money and power back to white ownership, there was still, once again, an emphasis on our people being recognized and us bringing leverage to the table in a way where even with us not being happy to integrate within their system, that when we deal in arenas where that are interracial, that our people are treated the same and afforded the same privileges and rewards based on their merit and ingenuity. 43, we call upon the various governments of the world to accept and acknowledge Negro representatives who shall be sent to the said governments to represent the general welfare of the Negro peoples of the world. 44, we deplore and protest against the practice of confining juvenile prisoners in prisons with adults. And we recommend that such youthful prisoners be taught gainful trades under humane supervision. 45, be it further resolved that we as a race of people declare the League of Nations null and void as far as the Negro is concerned, and that it seeks to deprive Negroes of their liberty. Man, that was a revolutionary line in the sand at that time. 46, we demand to all men to do unto us as we would do unto them in the name of justice. And we cheerfully accord to all men all the rights we claim herein for ourselves. Hold on. We protest against the practice of drafting Negroes and sending them to war with alien forces without proper training, and demand in all cases that Negro soldiers be given the same training as the aliens. 49, we demand that the instructions given Negro children in schools include the subject of Negro history to their benefit. 50, we demand the free and unfettered commercial intercourse with all the Negro people of the world. 51, we declare for the absolute freedom of the seas for all people, back to their import-export. 52, we demand that our duly accredited representatives be given proper recognition at all leagues, conferences, conventions, or courts of eternal arbitration wherever human rights are discussed. 53, we proclaim the 31st day of August of each year to be an international holiday to be observed by all Negroes. 54, We want all men to know we shall maintain and contend for the freedom and equality of every man, woman, and child of our race, with our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. These rights we believe to be justly ours and proper for the protection of the Negro race at large. And because of this belief, we, on behalf of 400 million Negroes of the world, do pledge herein the sacred blood of the race in defense. And we hereby subscribe our names as a guarantee to the truthfulness and faithfulness hereof in the presence of Almighty God on the 13th day of August in the year of our Lord, 1920.
Man.
So a lot of times people say this stuff outdated, and I'm like, how? And we ain't even did all this yet. We've had a few people here and there who done tried to, but it was never the majority of us. We can still work on this, build on this. There are modifications due to the high-tech world that we're in, but the universal truth going to remain the same.
Exactly. I do agree, brother. And with that, man, I just want to see, we don't have any more callers. So I think what we'll do, brother, we'll just get ready to wrap it up, and you can say some closing statements, and we'll call it a night, my man. And
all right. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you, brothers, for having me on. It's an honor to even speak on such a thing that's needed for us to think about and know about and brood about when this is over. Shout out again to the UNI ACL Division 401, Sir Isaiah Mortar Division, for embracing me and teaching me and guiding me. I will always be grateful for my fellow Garveyites that's been out here putting the work. Oh, yeah, the division that I'm in, the actual building that we meet at, the Garvey Center, 330 East 37th Street in Chicago, Illinois, is the exact building where Harold Washington's friends convinced him to run for the mayor of Chicago. He used to teach political science classes in the same building. So we have Garveyites. That's another thing. We have Garveyites on Sundays that come straight from church, straight to the Garvey Center. And you won't hear it being any conflict. They see brothers coming in there with unks on, kufis on, all type of stuff. And it's, hey, brother, hey, queen, how you doing? What's going on? Black man, black woman, race first, no matter what. Shout out to my boys and girls, Team Heretic. You know, we pushing the Team Heretic Gladiator School for a more research-based and respectful form of interfaith dialogue, discussions, and debates, but something else that we build in this Team Heretic Garvey's way, where even though we are intellectual combatants that thrive in pugilistic arenas, we're going to have Team Heretic Garvey's way, where we will bar any type of adversarial, contentious, and disseminating arguments against the theological beliefs of our brothers and sisters from being a part of the discussion. I also invite you two brothers to come through, too, when we build on Garvey days and do it Garvey's way and build on this. And thank you all again. Race first.
Thank you, Brother Greg. We appreciate you. Thank you for coming on. It's all good, and I most definitely will keep in contact with you. And with that being said, my closing statements, I hope that the information this evening was edifying to those who are genuinely searching and who just want to listen. We're only here to provoke people to righteousness and to live righteously.